Winning in today's market takes the right moves. Welcome to Elevate Your Business from Elevate Coaching at Guild Mortgage.
Learn how loan officers and operations can work better together and close deals faster in this conversation with the SVP of Operations at Guild Mortgage. Let's get into it.
Welcome back to the Elevate podcast. Today's conversation is about something that directly impacts every single deal, but doesn't always get talked about the right way. The partnership between loan officers and operations, because when this relationship is strong, deals move faster. And when it's not, things get harder than they need to be. So today, we're talking about how we actually work together at a high level. I've got Kristi Pickering here with me. She's our SVP of Operations here at Guild Mortgage, and she's been in the industry for 33 years. So, Kristi, welcome to our podcast. Really excited to have you here today.
Thanks, Paul. I'm really grateful to be here. So thank you.
This is going to be fun. So we always want to kind of get history, right? So tell us, how did you get started in the mortgage industry 33 years ago?
All right. So I don't count this as part of the 33 years, but my mom, she owned a title company, and my dad was a contractor. He built homes. And so I feel like, you grew up in it. During the summers, I was working with my mom or my dad because I was always in a little bit of trouble. So where do you go? You go to work with your parents. So I learned documents as a teenager, and right after high school, there was a job opening at a lender down the street from where my mom worked. And I ended up right there in post-closing, working with the team from New York. And we were working on FHA deficiencies, which I don't know how you could have a more intense introduction to this industry than working with a team from New York on FHA defis. So that's where I started.
Did you enjoy that? Like, what do you remember about that time? Because to me, that doesn't sound like very much fun. It
It was
sounds like
scary.
punishment for what I did wrong.
I was scared. This team in New York, they spoke super fast and really professional, and I had to keep up, right? And so I learned this industry out of the gate. I thought this is the most stressful thing I've ever done in my entire life, and I don't know how I'm going to survive it. But the more I worked at it, the more I thought this is actually really intense, but really fun. And I started to like it. But the first 6 months, I thought, what did I do? What did I
You're like,
do?
I'm going to start being a better girl so I don't get punished.
That's exactly right. So, yeah, it was great.
So if you went back to your very first year, what would you tell yourself? What would you tell yourself if you had to start this all over again?
I would probably say this to myself. Stop trying to answer the question that someone's asking you out of the gate. So, thinking of that team I was working with, they would rapid fire really intense questions. And all I would do is like, how am I going to answer this? This is so scary. And they're freaking out. And how do I fix this? And I think if I just would have actually stopped and listened, just pay attention, try to really understand what it is they need. And I think that would have actually helped me feel more calm, and it would have allowed me to respond in a better way instead of tripping over myself, because you're so nervous and so scared that you're going to answer something wrong. I think I would just say, calm down for a second and listen, because we learn way more by listening than we do trying to create a response.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's a really good lesson for even people in sales, right? Because a lot of times people want to, especially in the beginning of their career, they just want to have the answer. And we're
hmm
always coaching around, you don't need to go in with the answer. You need to discover what are those friction points, right? How can you help
Yeah.
people, right?
Yeah. It's totally true. Yeah.
So, what does a great partnership look like between operations and sales?
So I have always worked retail in retail, the mortgage division. And so for me, the best partnerships I've ever had is when we're working together and really communicating well. So I worked in a branch with several loan officers. I was the underwriter in the branch. And, when you're sitting in an office, it's so easy to communicate because I'm right there. I'm in a cube. Any loan officer can come up and ask a question. I've got processors on this side, right? My closers are across those cubicles. Um, all of us working together, being able to communicate well on individual loan files. You could easily do it by just shouting over the cubicle wall. That made us, we were so in sync. We knew every borrower. We had everyone's name on a whiteboard. I mean, we knew them in depth. We knew their kids. We knew everything about the stresses they were under. So communication is key. And we can still have that same level of communication today. It just looks a little different. But I would say the very best in sync, you know, oriented, really borrower oriented team you have is all about communication.
I know, and it is
Hmm.
completely different after COVID. I mean, we used to have a
Yeah.
full office. We could just go talk to people. I think one of the benefits, when you're always looking at the positive and the negatives, is there's less interruptions with the way we have to do things today. So we do have to communicate. We have to create a systematic approach in that. But I think the benefit for a lot of people is because I remember I'd go into Michelle and I'd say, "Hey, here's my file. This is what we're doing." Da, 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 and she's doing something else. And so sometimes she wouldn't remember something I would tell her. I don't even know how she could anyway, but I'd get so excited, right? So I think having a different communication system and it really has helped us be more efficient, in our
Hmm.
business, right? Because we have less interruptions.
Yeah. Paula, as you say that, too, I'm thinking of the way that we do it now because everything is so documented, right? It's all through Teams or you copy that and you put it in the communication log. The good part about that is when you've gone in and asked that question over the cubicle wall and your underwriter's half in, half out, sometimes you answer the question and you don't know the whole deal
Story.
or right now you're documenting all of those things as well. So it actually you can go back and be like, "Oh, I know exactly what I was thinking during that conversation," because it's all documented on both sides, which helps us even better. So you're right. That's the bright side.
That's the bright side. Yeah. I miss
Uh-huh.
people, but
For sure.
yeah. What do you think are some small things that loan officers can do that makes a big difference when those loans come into operations?
You know, just explain what it is we're trying to do. I think just an explanation of, where's the money really coming from? How are we documenting income? If there's some little quirky thing, any quirky thing on that loan file, call those out because that's where we get hung up is on the little things that aren't typical, right? Everybody's unique and every loan file process, everything is unique. Call out those little unique things because it will help us in the long run.
Even it's just like the little details, right?
Little details, the little things.
I know I think one thing, people would tell us as loan officers, even in the beginning, like, um, "Hey, my husband's gonna be in San Francisco, and so he's gonna have to sign his docs there," right? And you verbally say that, and then you forget about it. But again, going back to the documentation, what I love is when I can task Michelle and I tell her that up front, it kind of frees me, right? And then we're not going to the end where we're like, at the very end, dogs are going to, "Hey, do you remember they're going to San Francisco?" And Michelle be like, "No." You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So, it just those little details, I think you're right, makes it a lot smoother transition.
Yeah. Yeah, or it's like, they have this asset, they're getting their tax return, and you forget, "Oh, they're getting their tax return," right? "We know it's coming, we forgot to tell you, that's where the assets are coming from, here's the bank statement, but there's no assets in there." It's just those little funny things, and we know it's a solid deal, but you just forget that little bit, and it just slows things down. The other thing I love that you mentioned, San Diego, I feel like every borrower goes somewhere between the time they take application and the time the deal is done. So, yeah, anytime they're unavailable, it's good to know.
Right. Or I love this one. "Well, they're saving for it."
Yeah.
You're like, "Good what? No, we
Yeah.
need assets now," right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Just those little details, right? So you've moved 21 times. We were talking about that before we had this call because I moved quite a bit as well, but not as much as you did. So 21 time, walk us through that.
Okay, so it sounds a little crazy, and you're thinking, what kind of childhood did this person have if they had to move 21 times? Because it's a lot. My dad was a contractor in the 80s. And I know that's ancient for several people that are going to be listening to this, but for some of us, the 80s don't feel so long ago. But my dad was building homes, and back then our rates were in the teens. And so as a builder, self-employed, he would build a house. We would move into that house for about 6 months, sometimes 4 months, and then we would move into a rental property. And I had 4 siblings, and there were several times where we would move into a rental property that was a one-bedroom. So imagine how awesome that is. It was a lot, but there was something unique. We all had a box, every 5 kids, right? So we had a box where we could keep our personal items. We had our dresser with our clothes, so we never went without, but we couldn't bring everything every time we moved. So we had one box of items. And what it taught me was I can live with a lot less, right? I can live with just my box of things. But I realized after I got married, I had never lived in a home for more than about a year and a half. That was the longest I'd stayed in one place, and so I didn't know how to make it my home, right? I didn't wanna hang anything on the walls. I was really careful with the furniture that I purchased because I was thinking I'm gonna move in 6 months. But it really made me value this idea of this is my home, and this is where I'm going to be raising kids, and this is my community. And it was something so different to me, but what a cool concept and what a cool opportunity we have for borrowers buying homes. Like, what a unique thing that I hadn't experienced as a child, but now as an adult, it was a totally different concept of home and what that means and how you build community around it. It was really cool.
I always talk about that too. It's not that we're just doing loans. We're actually creating stability for people.
Mhm.
We're creating memories for people. Um, I moved, I was born in Seattle, and then I went to California for part of elementary school. Then I went to Oregon for elementary and junior high, and then high school back in Virginia. And I've lived in my house now 20 years. I can't even believe it. But
Mhm.
what a great, stability that even gives for your kids, right?
Yeah.
To be able to go to the same schools, to have the same friends, all of that as well. How long have you
Yep.
been in your house?
The one I'm in now is 6 years.
6 years? So you
So,
still moved a little bit.
did move a little. I've moved 4 times since I've been married, and,
That's
you
not bad.
know, yeah, it's fine.
Yeah.
It's acceptable. It's not 21.
Yeah. So your kids are probably happy, right?
They're totally fine.
Totally happy. Let's go into about consistency and discipline. Like what habits consistently lead into smoother closing? So even on the operations side, what do you teach processors? Because you lead everybody. Like what type of consistencies are you teaching them on their side of the business?
Yeah. A couple of things, and I would say our regional ops managers do a fabulous job of teaching their teams these specific things. So first off, most teams and most successful teams, you time block your day. You have to time block your day because if you don't, things will happen. We all know we live in a world of change and it happens every single day. So in the morning, if I'm a processor, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look at new files that have come in over the weekend, right? And this is going to look different for every processor. But if I'm time blocking my day, I want to look at those new files that have come in so I know exactly what's new. What do I need to do? When am I going to set up these loan files? How far have we gotten on these transactions? Then I'm going to look at something, hey, which loans are closing this week? Which ones do I need to get on top of? What's happening tomorrow? Structure your week so that you're ready to rock and roll throughout that week. You also need to look at what disclosures need to be sent out, right? Do I need to get to a place in these loan files where I have closing disclosures being sent? But every activity that you need to do really needs a time block. If not, your day becomes everyone else's fire. And that's just, we function off of that. So if you time block things, you can take those little fires and still be successful.
Right. And we do the same. We have to do that in sales as well, right? And it's prioritizing what's the most important things in those time blocks. And I agree because it's much better to be proactive versus the reaction, because the reaction is what causes a great deal of stress in both sales and operations, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think another tip that we've given our processors, and it's not all the time, you can't go on do not disturb 24 hours a day, but if you're in the middle of something that's, sometimes you have 2 years of tax returns with 15 different schedules. Like, that's the thing. Put yourself on do not disturb so you don't lose focus because there's no reason to jump. It just, it doesn't do you any good. It doesn't do your loan officers good. So if it's something that requires a lot of focus, take the time to focus on that thing, get through that thing, and then, then you're free and available.
Companies are all, looking at AI and
Mhm.
different um, tech stacks to help make our jobs easier. How do you see that playing in for operations? I mean, personally, I see for loan officers, the upfront, like I think that we can deliver a much better file to operations because of the AI that we have, and being able to structure correctly up front, know what products, know what documentation's needed, instead of it, kind of throwing it to processing and saying, what do I need? Right. I think we can do a much better job there. What do you see on your side?
So there is a lot of regulation happening right now in every state and every agency, right? So we're trying to figure out the best way to use AI, but still do it in a really, follow the regulations that are going to be placed on that AI. So a couple of things I do see. I think that concept of the sales team taking a quick look at a loan file and it making it easier for them to be able to submit with pretty darn valid documentation, right? The processor can use those same tools to be able to submit to underwriting. So you're just following it down that same path. I do think we can use AI to be able to create specific activities from the system. So eventually, do we use those tools to be able to create workflow tasks and activities that need to be done on those loan files? The From an underwriting standpoint, the underwriter still has to underwrite that loan file.
Right.
We can have AI tools look at things, but really at the end of the day, the underwriter is looking at everything, right? Like we've always done. But I do think the speed comes in the origination, the processing, and potentially the closing on the back end, right? You have ability to review documentation, validate that it's been done accurately, the borrower signed in the right spot, we have the right dates. There are so many things that the system can take a look at, but we're pretty far off of getting to that space
That's the
today.
dream, right?
It's the dream, and I think that's way so in the future because it takes people to be able to create all of those different process and to make them really accurate. So for now, it's really about how to make it quick up front and give us some directionally correct information so that when we're looking at that file, we can be like, hey, this is the direction it's pointing us in. Let's validate all of this stuff and make sure it's accurate. So, throw that over to the underwriter who will be doing the full file review. And then again, on the closing side, directionally correct information, just like Guild IQ,
Right.
like our awesome tools.
I know. I love it. I mean, it's so helpful. Just, special. I'm excited because we can coach our loan officers on that up front. So we'll say, well, why aren't you prospecting? Well, I had a file blow up. So like that's what I'm hoping is that we have less files blowing up
Yeah.
due to not structuring correctly up front. And then they can prospect and do the things they love. And operations gets a great file, right?
Yeah. Paul, I was thinking of something else too. When you're looking at it from the origination standpoint, it maybe you run it through these tools and it's like, hey, these are some potential issues that we're going to run into. How awesome is that to have potential issues that fast for the borrower as well to say like, okay, these are some things we're going to work on together. And it's not, maybe a week later where you're like, man, I missed those things. And now we've got to work on these together to get you to the point of home ownership in the future. But it's a quick review and we can get them there a little bit faster.
I agree. I think the customer experience is going to be much better. I'd rather day one call and say, hey, this came up. So
Hmm.
we're going to need this type of documentation than a week and a half and coming back, because I think that's where people will say, gosh, they kept calling me and they wanted more. So, like, if we could eliminate that and have that a really good um, option for our clients, I think
Mhm.
that's going to make it better
I
experience,
agree.
right?
Yep.
So you're a routine girl, which I would imagine really good operations people are into routines. So talk about your routine in the morning.
Okay, it's just a weird one, but I've done it for so long, it's normal now. So I get up at 4 o'clock. I know that sounds early, but once your body's used to it, it's really not that bad. So I get up at 4. I literally, like, go take all of the supplements you have to take before you work out, right? Because you need a little energy, some caffeine. I flip on a f we have a fire in our living room, so we flip that on, flip the switch, and then I just read for a little bit. Whatever it is, I try not to open my email at 4 o'clock, but sometimes it happens. We're never perfect. So I read for a little bit, and then at 4:30, I leave for the gym. I work out between 5 and 6, and then I'm back here by 6, and we start to get rolling. It's a lot easier now that our kids are out of the house to hold that routine, so don't feel bad if that's not your routine eventually.
Right.
You'll figure it out. You do what you can, but it's been my routine for several years, and it just if I don't do it, it's tricky, right? I get the energy that I need. I feel like I'm super motivated, I'm ready to go, and I'm just ready to conquer the day. Like, it feels really good to start that way, and then I'm ready to rock and roll.
Okay. So what did you do in your
So,
workout today?
I ran on the treadmill for about 25 minutes, then I went and lifted some weights, so
Nice.
good.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I know. I agree. You always feel better when I always say when you sweat, you know what I
Yeah,
mean? It makes you feel
yeah,
better when you're going into work and you're ready to go. And it clears your head too, right? Gets you really
yeah.
clear.
I was gonna say that. It just shuts off your brain, it shuts off all the other stuff in your brain, and you're just focused on surviving the workout, which is a good thing. It's a good thing to shut everything else off for a little while.
Another thing we talked about in preparation, you did step away for a while from the
Mhm.
industry. Talk to us about that, and when did you do that? How long ago? And how long did you step away from the industry?
I had a sister who was really sick. She was really sick for a while, and it was important for us to be able to support her family and her kids, and so I stepped completely out of the industry and watched her children and my children for about it's almost a year. It was about a year. And she's doing great. Kids are great. All good. But I think it reset how I approached life, right? When you have something like that that rocks your world and you have to step away for a little while, you are able to just realize that there are way important things on this planet, and work is work, and we love work. You should love what you do, but it's okay to step back and take a breath and do the things you need to do to be able to come back and be better and stronger.
Right.
So I think it's a good lesson was a good lesson for me. And sometimes we just need that space.
Right. It helps us reset priorities. And I think a lot of women, we have dual roles. We talked about that. It's like you have your work role and then you have if you've got a family, your kids role, or just regular things like who remembers the birthdays, who
Yeah.
remembers like shopping and groceries and all that kind of stuff. A lot of times that lands on women, which is just, it's
Hmm.
an extra job, right? The other thing I think is a lot of times we get into this place where we've got kids, but we also have parents. Like, so you're kind of balancing both of that care and it can get a little challenging, right?
Definitely, definitely. I think that, I have 4 kids. I know, Paula, you have kids.
I have one.
I have 1. One that's awesome.
Yeah, that's right.
Even it doesn't matter if you have 4 or 1, I'm telling you, like, it's still the same stuff. We all have challenges. And I think that you and I were talking about this, there is that, you work and we love to work. I do love what I do, but you have that guilt on that other side that just pulls at you and you're like, "Man, if I am I doing all of the things I'm gonna be able to, am I doing well?" And I think the guilt comes in, are my kids gonna be okay? You know? You do all you can to be able to support them financially and physically and mentally and spiritually or whatever it is, right? But there's that guilt of, am I doing enough and are my kids gonna be okay? And I think that that's where we help each other. We help each other in that.
I think too, like I learned, and I wasn't obviously perfect about that either, but what I learned in the end and what I do today is just like carve out that time with my son and just be as present as I can, right? Because our kids, they're busy in their lives too.
They are.
He can't say I've got a mom that's, demanding on my time. That's for sure not happening. But it is when you spend that time with them, right? To be really intentional about it. And I think, most kids, that's what they appreciate.
Paula, when my kids were younger, I had a photo. You always have a photo of like your kids, or they're the two crazies behind me are my girls. So you have this photo of your kids, and I remember at work I had that photo, and I thought, when I'm here, I'm going to be 100% here. I'm going to give all I can. But when I'm there and I'm home, I'm going to be 100% home. And I tried so hard to be present when I was there. And like you said, you're never perfect. No, none of us are perfect. And you got to give yourself tons of grace. But man, when you focus the time where your time is needed, it helps a lot.
It
So,
does.
yeah.
So you were coached as well, right?
Uh huh.
So talk to us about your coaching journey and then what you're doing at Guild with coaching.
Yeah. So, uh, it was several years into my career, and I had a coach that I met with several times during the year. And one of the things that she helped me figure out is why do I do what I do, right? I I think all of us have to ask that question at some point. Why are we in this industry? Why do we choose to coach or choose to lead or choose to process or whatever it is we're doing? Why are we doing what we do? And going through a whole process of really trying to understand it myself, I realized I do this because I want other women to feel strong. And I never thought that that was my why. I just thought, you know, I'm just doing this and I love it and I love people and that was my why. I really learned that I wanted other, not just women, but everyone in general, but I want people to feel confident and strong in the things that they do. And that's my why. How do I give people confidence and help them feel like they're succeeding? That's important to me. Um, so that's what I found out. It was eye-opening.
It's great because unfortunately, right, operations, they're the ones that get the file. They're not the first ones to get to see the file, right? They have to, and then things come up and it can create a lot of stress, right? And the way I think they need to have confidence. They need to have confidence to know when to give a file back, and say, "Hey, I need your help." And sometimes that's challenging, you know what I mean? Or the confidence to pick up the phone and talk to realtors, and understand, like, it'll probably save them a lot of time by
Mhm.
doing that, right? So, I think I love that. So, that's what you learned. And then so you're doing that with as a leader, right, with your operations team. You're also leading a call every month. Talk to us about that and what you're doing on that call for operations.
Yeah, so our call for operations, it's been evolving because it was new to me when I started at Guild, and I've loved it. I've had to figure out how do I embrace this and make it something that I have a lot of confidence in myself, right? Because it's a little tricky to hold those calls. One of the things that I figured out is on that call, we talk about a couple of different things. First of all, we talk about tactical and practical tips and tricks for the field. So we will talk about new processes that are being implemented if that's the thing we need to talk about as a team. We also talk about how we work together. So our last month call was about Guild IQ and how we're using the tools to be able to improve what we do every day. That's one of the things. We also talk about there are sometimes that we'll have a coaching call and it's really about communication. It could be about how do I show kindness to the team that I'm working with. So we're talking about things that are inspirational and motivational as well. And I think that that's something we need to keep in mind. It's not just about the tactical, practical things we do each day, but how do we work together as a team,
I
right?
love it.
So
I love
those are
it.
the things we cover. Yeah.
And I don't think a lot of times operations gets that attention or opportunity to learn. And I think that's a huge differentiation with us here at Guild. What are 3 things you think loan officers can do to build a better partnership with their operations team?
First, I would say if you have someone working on your team and you see something great happening, please just let them know, right?
Positive reinforcement.
Positive reinforcement is like it just makes our hearts happy when we when we get an attaboy. So that's what I would say is first. Second, communicate. Give them the little things, whatever will make their jobs a little bit easier, just feel free to communicate. That's what it's all about. The third thing would be is if you have an opportunity to help them learn a new skill, right? Whether it's talking to a realtor, um, speaking with the borrower, right? Giving them something where it feels like it's a little bit of a challenge, but might be a good thing for you as a team. sh- let's try to make that work together as a team because we talk about we want to be able to succeed and do more. We grow through what we go through. If we don't go through something that's a little bit challenging, we never grow. So if you find an opportunity that would challenge someone, let's let's create those opportunities so that we can grow together.
I always think too, when something goes awry, like, let's just work together to get it done. And then we can always go back around and say, okay, what did we learn from it?
Yes.
What can we do differently? What can we do better? But when it's happening, it's not the time.
Right.
Right?
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we just need to get through
We
that
just need to
sucker
get
so that we
through
can move.
that. Yeah. Let's not talk about the details. Let's just get
No,
it done and then we can review and help
that's
each other.
right.
And I agree, help each other as a team, right? For us
Yeah.
to all get better. So I believe, when operations and sales align, everything changes. Stress levels go down, files go through the system easier, and there's a huge trust that's built between each team. And I think when you have that trust, we're unstoppable.
It's so true.
Yeah.
So true.
So I want to thank you so much. I know you're so busy, and I appreciate you coming on today and sharing with all of us things that we can be doing. And I hope loan officers out there and operations out there, and we've picked up a few things from Kristi on how we can be better teammates. And we go out and I think number one, make sure you tell those operations people when they're doing a great job because
Thank
because
you.
they always hear the other, right? So let's flood them with how well they're doing to help us grow our
Awesome.
business.
Thank you so much, Paula.
Yep.
You're the best.
Thanks for listening to Elevate Your Business, a podcast from Elevate, the internal coaching program at Go Mortgage. Glad you could be here for today's playbook. If you want to check us out, head over to gilmortgage.com and click About Us to find Elevate Coaching. Have a question or want to keep the play going? Visit us and send a DM on Instagram at Elevate Mortgage Coaching, or leave a comment for us on YouTube. We're posting extra content, behind-the-scenes action, and everything you need to stay in the mortgage game. On Elevate Your Business, we share real stories and strategies from top producers to help you move forward. So ask yourself, what are you waiting for? It's time to elevate.
Guild Mortgage Company, Equal Housing Opportunity, Arizona Broker License Number 0018883, licensed by the Department of Financial Protection and Innovation under the California Residential Mortgage Lending Act. Massachusetts Mortgage Lender License Number MC3274. Massachusetts Mortgage Broker License Number MC3274, licensed by the Mississippi Department of Banking and Consumer Finance, licensed by the New Jersey Department of Banking and Insurance. Nevada Mortgage Company Number 1141, Oregon Mortgage Lender License Number 176, Rhode Island Licensed Lender, Rhode Island Licensed Third-Party Loan Servicer, Company NMLSID 3274. For licensing information, go to www.nmlsconsumeraccess.org. All loans subject to underwriter approval. Terms and conditions apply, subject to change without notice. Guild Mortgage Company is an equal opportunity employer. Guild Mortgage Company 5887, Copley Drive, floors 13456, San Diego, California 92111. For more licensing information, please visit www.guildmortgage.com/licensing. Elevate is an internal Guild Mortgage Company coaching program and not a separate entity. Podcast content is provided for informational purposes and based on publicly available materials or tactics used in the industry. The views, strategies, or opinions discussed do not necessarily represent those of Guild Mortgage Company or its affiliates. Intended for mortgage industry professionals only. Paula Nirschl, NMLS number 383396.
Kristi Pickering, NMLS number 1837363.
Thank you for joining us on Elevate Your Business, a podcast for mortgage professionals brought to you by Elevate, the internal coaching program at Guild Mortgage.